As the war in Iran rages on, sometimes it's difficult to separate fact from fiction. What is a deepfake and what is actual verified video and audio coming out of this war in the Persian Gulf? To talk more about it, thrilled to be joined by our team, Mike, a big part of the team at TFL Media, former military veteran Brian Isted. Brian, how are you?
Very well, thank you, sir. How are you?
Good, good. We were just talking off the air that there are so many people, not just everyday people, but media members being fooled by the bots and the deep fakes, what's going on in the Persian Gulf, in the Strait of Hormuz. It's unlike anything I've ever seen before, Brian.
Yeah, so I can speak to this from personal, literal writing a piece about this back in probably 2019. It might have been 2020 at that point, where I don't know if it ever got published or not, to be honest. I don't think it did, but the intelligence community was very deliberately tracking the amount of potential for national security incidents with deepfakes. The specific example that was referenced in some of the reporting that I'd seen was a lip synced version, or lip sync maybe is not the right word, but sort of a dubbed fake video of Vladimir Putin sending out some kind of emergency broadcast that he had launched a nuclear strike against the US, and there was X number of minutes or you know what I mean, an hour or whatever for us to respond to this. And that was back in 2019, I think. And the realistic depiction of this was pretty scary back then. Like it was kind of, you could kind of tell that maybe it wasn't 100% real. It was a little bit grainy, so maybe, who knows. But now, you know what I mean, I like, even the trained eyes is having a hard time, including myself, watching something and knowing that what I'm looking at is a real person or a real story or has any credible information, you know what I mean, that can be backed up. So it's very important, and I've kind of already said this, that people double, triple check sourcing. Do not single source anything. This is a serious concern, and the consequences could be quite large if, again, like a nuclear strike type of announcement was deemed credible.
It's quite wild to me. The other day I was flipping through social media, and I noticed that CNN had a sort of an indicator that said that it was verified
I've seen
footage.
That. Yeah.
Because a similar clip, and they even referenced it, a similar clip had come out that was slightly altered, but made the clip completely different.
Yeah.
And another one that I saw was a B-52 bomber being paraded through the streets of Tehran, pretty much intact. And I'm just guessing that if a bomber
that may
came
be
down,
fake.
yeah, that we would have heard something about that.
Yes.
But it was very convincing. I mean, it looked very convincing. You wouldn't, just passing by, you might think to yourself, wow, they took down one of the bombers.
Maybe they finally learned how to build the entire plane out of the black box material, and it crashed and is completely completely intact. Probably not, is my guess. But
that's a good point. The black box always survived. Why don't we create the whole plane like that?
Yeah, well, right.
It's a good point. Thank you, Brian.
That was a comedian's joke. I heard that years ago. I can't take credit for that. But the problem is, from the, again, intelligence nerd perspective, my couple years that I spent there, and just getting sort of a grip of what we were being trained to do and how to recognize patterns and that kind of thing, is that the mainstream legacy media, and there's a lot of YouTube and independent journalism that I would also consider mainstream, with all the sponsorships and money and all the things behind the scene. Like, it's hard to tell now who isn't biased or influenced to some degree. What are the motives of this person? What are my motives? Like, what am I in this for, right? So that most people, I tend to believe, that don't get past the headline or even the very beginning of an article. So all you really need now is some type of realistic looking clipping or headline that is designed to target the emotion of the reader. And as we know, through a lot of experts that have come, you know what I mean, publicly now in the last few years of testifying, that, and you guys just did a video on this the other day, like, your algorithm is feeding you things that it knows, you know what I mean, are going to elicit that emotional response. And there's so much money to be made on this rage and fear porn, you know what I mean, that's pumped out, that there's so much incentive to do this. Like, I can't stress enough that people really have to take a lens through what they're looking at, and filter almost everything, and not emotionally react, and read the actual article to make sure that the headline isn't, you know what I mean, completely out to lunch just to get you spun up over. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
No,
yeah,
totally.
no, it makes total sense. And I was thinking, Brian, while you were talking, that You know, the Iranian military has no more Air Force, no more Navy. They're outgunned, but they do have the weapon of deepfakes, AI, and social media. And how are they using that strategically to help them prolong this to their benefit?
Well, the same way that every military ever has used psychological warfare or the power of propaganda to, you know what I mean, swing the emotion of the civilian population or even the actual soldier morale. You know what I mean? If you're only bombarded with certain stories of, like Iran released a story saying 160 plus young children, I believe girls, might have been killed with a U.S. or Israeli strike, and the U.S. is claiming this is a false flag and it was friendly fire of the own. It's impossible to know. I'm not going to pretend like I know exactly where that missile came from. I don't know, and I think there's very few people who actually do. And we're not going to get the real story for months or years, if ever, of what actually went on. And a good example I can give, another one of recent, was there was a story of a couple Ukrainian soldiers that were posted up, I think, on an island or a very, forgive me, I don't remember the exact details, but they were posted up somewhere very remote. I think it was an island, and Russia was about to move in, and they were going to eviscerate this island with an airstrike or a drone strike. And the soldiers dug in and said, we're not gonna give in. You know what I mean? We're not gonna raise the white flag. Like you have to come and kill us to take this ground. And it got everybody, oh my God, Ukraine, you know what I mean? The Ukrainian soldiers are so brave, and Ukrainian soldiers are brave. Like, this is not to take away from that. But this story was completely made up. It was completely made up, and it reached news all over the world. It was on all the largest legacy media, independent, whatever stations. And everybody kind of wanted to get behind this story because it was such a good story. And like, even I believed it for a certain, maybe a day or two, you know what I mean, until I dug into it, or basically just stopped listening. But to be honest, I forget where your original question was, but it's like,
no, but they're using it strategically to help them as a military, like you say, to convince the Iranian people, convince the Iranian military that, hey, look at what we're doing.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
what's interesting to me, the internet is out. They've disconnected the internet. There's no real means of average everyday citizens connecting with any ease. And I wonder if that is to combat some of the potential propaganda that would come into Iran from the rest of the world. Certainly, you know, maybe strategically put there militarily. But you raise a really interesting point before, when you say you really need to look at your sources. And I will tell you this, in looking for examples of video, such a huge list came up almost immediately of deep fakes that had to do with military from around the world in the last 3 months.
That look very, very believable, Brian.
It makes me wonder, you know, will we as media out there now really take that extra step to let people know that we have verified, that we have done as much as we can to, verify the veracity of what we're seeing? Because that seems to be a new responsibility in my mind of the media that is out there conveying this.
Like, I don't know exactly what, you know what I mean, you think you can do or we can do to stop it. It's like, this stuff is getting so realistic. It's become almost impossible to tell what's real and what's not. So I don't think it's the fault of any one person or any one network for reading something and you know what I mean, going down a rabbit hole on it. The best thing to do would be to go down a rabbit hole on it to make sure that what you're seeing is not fake. But I to be honest, I'm kind of at a loss here to recommend anything other than making sure you can find 2, 3, 4, 5 plus sources to corroborate this information. And if that's the case, then there's a good chance that it's at least trending in the direction of real or something that resembles real.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
Like, we're at a place now where, okay, you're doing your best to find out what's real. That is a new era of propaganda.
But when Brian alluded to the Ukrainian story, and I'm thinking now that this is a weapon, Brian, for a military. Have a department of your military creating these for morale, for different purposes, to raise awareness and maybe raise foreign investment for your military. You can use these deep fakes as a military to your benefit.
Yeah, for sure. Like this, like I said, this is as old as war. Dropping, back in the day, they would drop pamphlets, you know what I mean,
Yes.
around the town saying, You know what I mean? One crusade or another is for this reason or for that, and you got to get behind the righteous cause because we're the good guy and they're the bad guy or whatever. Like this, there is nothing new about this. It's just the degree to which they can churn out hyper realistic depictions of things that are terrifying and emotion stirring is unprecedented. So like nobody really knows how to. I want to give an interesting example here of a channel on YouTube. The channel is called Money Over History. And there's an Asian gentleman with glasses that is the sort of narrator of this channel. It's got almost 50,000 subscribers, which I think is interesting. The video that I'm looking at is called "Iran Claims 220 U.S. Soldiers Killed in 24 Hours. U.S. Deploys Nuclear Command Plane." So you can imagine
That's
upon
a heavy
just
headline.
just scrolling past this headline, you're going to think, oh my God, the U.S. is covering up dead soldiers. Like, I find it hard to believe that 220 U.S. soldiers' families would not be asking for, you know what I mean, where their kids are, where their husbands are, where their parents are, whatever. But if you watch this link, it's pretty realistic. It's not the best AI bot video I've ever seen, but it's also definitely not the worst. And if you watch this and you think, oh my God, like I'm watching this new scoop that's CNN or nobody has yet, and it's like this thing is completely made up as far as I can tell. This is a completely fabricated story. It's full fake news or whatever. And people are somehow it has 50,000 subscribers of people. Many of those are probably other bots, and that's a whole other thing I can get into in a minute. But yeah, this is like, it's gotten to a level that's scary, and people really need to be aware that this is inundating their feed nonstop, all day, every day, and that is very intentional. And this is absolutely a strategy to keep people afraid and just toe the line.
So, and I'm looking at the page right now, and he did a video 3 days ago that has almost 275,000 views, and it was claiming Iran fired a Mach 15 hypersonic missile at Israel to take out a target. And the video and the graphics, it would be very difficult not to realize that this has been completely generated through AI material, Brian.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy.
Yeah,
like I don't know.
1,000 views.
Right.
Yeah.
And it looks so real, and it looks like it's sourced and has graphics. And I mean, the whole image of the guy could be fake as well.
I think it is. I think it is.
I was going to say, I don't know that that's even a real human being on camera there.
Right. So it's an AI generated individual with AI generated visuals and facts of a supposed Mach 15 missile that Iran fired. Now, they do have a lot of drones and missiles, but this could be another psyop, as you mentioned, Brian, a way to get people thinking that, oh, maybe Iran's not losing after all.
So who's behind this guy?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't know. It could be China, it could be North Korea, it could be Russia. Those are the three biggest players that I saw in the cyber operations community. Even Iran, actually, to a certain degree, had a pretty capable cyber ability back in 2019. So, but again, like some loser in his basement with the right software could have spun this up in a few minutes.
So who do you think might be behind this guy?
China, Iran, North Korea, Russia, probably one of them, or any idiot in his basement with advanced software capability.
Yeah, so that's almost like individualized terrorism possibilities right there.
But the count you reference, Brian, and you talk about who's behind it, almost 50,000 subscribers, 8 million views since December. A lot of people are being sucked into this content.
Probably, but those views and those subscriptions can also be sort of quote unquote faked to a certain degree with follow for follow, those type of things. These computers talk to each other. It's so much more advanced than since I've been out of the game in 2019. And that's why I want to tell sort of a quick story of some of the things that I was exposed to in the cyber intelligence community realm, where there was a lot of reporting on how many bots and trolls and actual farm, they call them bot and troll farms, where there's just thousands upon thousands of people, and then tens of thousands and thousands of bots, maybe even hundreds of thousands of bots that exist to just essentially shitpost or post things that are deliberately inflammatory, that have absolutely no bearing on reality, that are just designed to make people annoyed, afraid, you know what I mean, addicted to this content, and basically cause sort of social unrest. And at the time when I'm reading this reporting from, again, China, Russia, North Korea, Iran, these countries are very capable and they can churn this stuff out 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because it's a lot of the time it's automated. Like I couldn't really understand from a strategic perspective, because that's the environment I was working in. What does this mean at a strat level? You know, I mean, 50,000 foot level. What does this mean for the allied nations? What does this mean for the people that are consuming it? And at the end of the day, now with many years of hindsight to be able to look back on it, the whole point of this operation, I don't think necessarily had a goal in mind. It was sort of, the goal was just to cause this unrest. Like the goal was to keep people addicted to their phones, to make them, you know what I mean, constantly scrolling TikTok, constantly doom scrolling. Like the mission sort of was just to keep people on their phone watching this stuff. I think that my assessment is they achieved that times 100-fold anything they thought that they were going to be able to do. But looking back on it from then, I didn't really know where they were trying to take it, not realizing, and that's on me, that they had already done it. And they were and COVID just poured jet fuel on the fire of how many people were addicted to this fear and doom scrolling stuff that just spun them into an algorithm that kept them constantly afraid.
Do Canada, the USA, NATO countries, Western Europe, do they utilize something similar to attack maybe or go against those countries you mentioned, like North Korea, Iran, Russia?
Man, that's a good question. I was never exposed to any reporting about what the allied countries were doing to combat it with an offensive cyber posture. That's a really good question. I would probably guess yes. I was not involved in that. I was merely an analyst looking at the reporting of sort of what we were trying to keep an eye on and what it meant for us. But I'd be pretty surprised to think that we're not trying to do something similar. I just don't think that we have the same level of effect as has been achieved domestically here by these state-backed countries that are trying to cause unrest here, because they've definitely caused it. And people are just walking around on edge all the time because they're just addicted to consuming this garbage.
It's a great point. It's a great point.
It's interesting to me that, Israel took over TikTok, for example. So even the control of the platforms on which this is being delivered, well, if you're wondering if the allied nations do it, well, one of them actually owns TikTok. And so my answer to that would have to be, I would assume so. And Netanyahu, I think, is even quoted as saying, look, a lot of the battle, a lot of the wars are going to be fought online through these platforms. And that's where we're going to begin to hit as well. And the next thing you know, TikTok was brought into Israel. So yes, I think that there is that combat from the other side as well.
Well, and I've seen, Brian, in the White House and the Trump administration producing AI type videos interspersed with real combat footage from what's going on in Iran to sort of hype up the American people. I mean, they're doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like for sure they're doing it. And that, Mike, you made a great point there with Israel hopping on board with the TikTok thing there. Backtracking to the question that you asked me back then, I was interpreted it as like, are we doing this covertly? Yeah, like it's definitely happening overtly, and Israel is making no bones and no shame about how they're basically bought TikTok and bought the media now to try to pursue their narrative, which is a whole other thing we could talk. We could probably do an entire podcast on our greatest ally. But yeah, obviously we're doing it. Obviously, you know what I mean? Israel and those folks are doing it through the means that they're describing. But the covert stuff, you know what I mean, with the troll and bot and farms in the background, of course we're doing it. I don't know what scale or scope.
Mike?
Well, it's a hard slog out there right now, getting through what you're seeing online. What I would, and I never do this, what I would recommend is go with the broadcasters and the newscasters that are telling you they're not going to show you anything that is not verified, to the end.
Well, when CNN had a reporter, I think in Bahrain or Dubai, when a drone attack was coming in and she's live and they got to run to a bomb shelter, that seems pretty real, Brian.
Yeah, maybe it is. I didn't see that, but yeah, that's exactly the problem of there's so much fake stuff that when something real does happen, you also don't believe that now. So that's
Yes,
that's
that's a
again
great point.
achieving the desired effect of, if you put so much fake stuff out there that gets everyone spun up to the point of that they don't believe anything, now they're not going to believe the things that are real also. Again, another desired effect achieved.
It's hard to know what
Incredible.
the antidote is for this, to be honest with you. I would imagine there is technology out there to scrape what is and what isn't AI, but that's not technology the average everyday person has, or even the media outlets, to decipher what is real and what is not. But I would imagine that's definitely on the horizon, something that you'll see as a new technological breakthrough is, okay, now we can tell you what's fake and what is not. But in the meantime, we're in the midst of a war, in one of the most frightening theaters of war, I think, in the history of mankind, certainly in many decades. And here we are, unable to really understand it. And if you think about it, we're not that far away from the first color war we saw, which was Vietnam, that
Yeah.
really changed the course of that war through the lives of citizens in
Yep.
America. Seeing this horrific footage, it changed their opinion. It changed what happened with that entire war.
And it changed, Brian, how media is allowed to cover combat and war ever since.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the Vietnam War was another war started off a false flag event. Misreported in the media, American propaganda, like the list goes on and on. We've probably never been told the truth. And people are, because of the internet now and the gift of the independent journalism, we're actually starting now to try to get a grip of what's actually going on. And we just get inundated with so much other stuff to make it even more difficult yet again.
From a Canadian military standpoint, Brian, just to bring it a little closer to home, how prepared is the Canadian military to combat something like this or use it to their advantage?
I would say that they're not. They very recently developed a cyber capability for offensive cyber operations to hack into infrastructure, you know what I mean, secure computers,
Mhm.
things like that. Again, I'm not a ones and zeros guy. I cannot walk you through how that works. I just know
Yeah.
that we do have capable signals intelligence collection. We do have offensive and defensive cyber operations people now as a trade in the military. But compared to what our adversaries have been spooling up for the better part of a decade with 10 or 100 times our budget, Canada's not prepared at the end of the day.
Hmm. Yeah.
We're thinking of the enemies using propaganda through deepfake and AI, but it's used on its own citizens in many cases. That came up in my research as well, that there's a lot of governments out there that will allow a certain amount of disinformation to happen through this means, and that they actually, in some terrible cases, will use it on their own citizens. That is, I think, a great danger.
Well, I'm allowed to reference I believe JCCC, the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms, did that report on the Canadian government using military-style propaganda psyop to convince people to consume vaccines just a few years ago.
Hmm.
The Canadian government
Hmm.
is absolutely using military-grade propaganda to convince Canadian people to take experimental medicines, and this is now documented. I don't know what more someone could learn to wake up to what's going on at home here, other than that very stunning report. It's about 10 pages long PDF form that I read on the JCCC that dove into that. And if I believe it's called Manufacturing Consent. I've been trying to hunt down one of the leading experts in this for several weeks now, so holding my breath that I can get a hold of her. But yeah, there's Canadian government will hold no bones about exposing you to the exact same level of psyop propaganda, because they did it over a period of 2 or 3 years, spending almost $750 million to do it.
You've got a great point. I mean, this doesn't have to be Brian hopping on the back of a crystal octopus and floating out of the scene.
Yeah.
It could be much more. By the way, if you do that at the
We'd
end
like
of
to
this
see
episode,
the deepfake.
that'd be great.
Yeah.
But having said that, it can be much more subtle. It can
Absolutely.
be disinformation that looks official. It can be a news report that's coming from a nefarious source that, so I can see that there has been history of this. Certainly in America, we've seen examples of it throughout history. It's a frightening time on this front.
It was referenced in the movie Arnold Schwarzenegger, Terminator 2, about the future of AI. People laughed it off, but AI is a weapon. It's become a full reality, Brian.
Yeah, if I want to touch on something that Mike and I talked about yesterday that I neglected to mention sort of at the end there when we discussed the Chinese floating supercomputer signals collection ship that's about 6,000 kilometers away from the conflict, that is constantly scanning in 360, collecting as much information as it can, helping provide Iran with real-time intelligence to assist them, you know what I mean, in establishing the patterns and learning about how the U.S. strikes, how the U.S. uses logistics to refuel and reassert themselves for the next conflict. This is a Chinese ship doing this, which means that China is now in real time gathering copious amounts of information about how the US would launch a modern war. And they're able to absorb this information, study it, learn it, plan for the next conflict, not only like in addition to providing this intelligence to Iran. We are basically giving China a front row seat, learning to how the allies are going to conduct a war, whether it's short or who knows how long this is going to go. But now they have all the intelligence they need to learn where our missiles come from, where our planes come from, how long it takes to reconstitute them, what are our supply lines, how often do we refuel, where do we do it? Like the list goes on and on. And China now has all this information aggregated 100,000 times over with this floating supercomputer to use this against us in the next one.
That is frightening, Mike.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
You know, capturing the pattern, capturing the means.
Never underestimate your enemy, right, Brian? I mean, that's like Sun Tzu, like don't underestimate the capability of the person you're going against.
That's one of the first things they teach you in as a junior soldier, junior leader, when you're trying to write your orders, is that the enemy gets a vote too. You can design the most eloquent, you know what I mean, platoon attack of all time, where everything's going to go this way or that way. And then you get there and the ground's different, or the enemy moved, or the enemy has more guns than you thought, or you walked right into an ambush. Like it's Mike Tyson said it best, that everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the face. So you need to, the enemy gets a vote too, and it's not going to go according to the way you thought it was. You got to be agile.
Brian, thanks so much for talking to us about this. I don't know. Are we wagging the dog? I don't know if you remember that movie.
Yes. No, but that is the real Brian Isted. That is not AI.
I'm not convinced.
Again, I would have washed out all these wrinkles if I used to.
So, Mike, when an expert like Brian, with his depth of experience in the military and out of the military, is being fooled by deepfakes and AI of what's going on in Iran, what's the average person in this country supposed to do? Well, we're all going to be faked out by it.
Well, it's so interesting because before the show, I checked with Perplexity.
Yes.
And I asked Perplexity, is there any way for you to detect AI? And it said, yes. Give me an example.
Yeah.
And I put one in and it said, no, this is not AI. In fact, it certainly was a deep fake. So that one experience I had right there. Now, there are other AI checkers out there. How effective they are or how infiltrated they are, I don't know.
But it's become beyond what's happening in the Persian Gulf that any news footage now has to have that chyron, that bug on the screen. This is verified video, verified image, because everything else we can't believe anymore. And as Brian said, unless you put that there, you don't know if that's real or not.
You know, it's really sad to say this, but if it's news coverage that looks outstanding, I'm pretty much going to guarantee you that it's not real, because newsrooms around the world have done nothing but cut staff.
Yes.
So when you see outstanding news coverage of something, it's probably been captured on somebody's cell phone and sent to the station or the network. Then it's up to them to verify it.
So here's for people who don't understand media in Canada, around the world. Sometimes mistakes happen, and they by law they put the apology, whether it's a newspaper article, whatever.
It's a correction, yeah.
But after the fact, the horse is out of the barn. People saw the image, they saw the video, they read the story, and even though the apology has been made after the fact, it's too late then, because people's minds are like, well, I saw this thing, I heard this.
It's a good point. I wonder psychologically how many times you have to be told something before it's just truth to you, or shown something before it becomes reality to you.
There are a number of urban legends out there that there's a Snopes.com, which, verifies or shoots down urban legends. But there's a number of them where people are so convinced. I've had thousands of conversations with people over the years, and they repeat the same thing, and it may or may not be true. But now, with the ability and the technology advancing exponentially almost weekly, in AI and deepfake. It's hard to know what is real and what isn't.
When the battle is being fought into your eyeballs, ears, and your senses, and then being played on you psychologically, that's warfare that affects every single person eventually.
And Mike, think about how busy we are in the world. And, I'm going to check my news feed. I'm going to check my feed to see what's happening in between work and commuting and shopping and life. And then you see something. And even though 2 days later you find out it was fake, in your mind, look, I saw this. The thing blew up.
That's true. It becomes a reference for you. Well, I thought that was true. Even if at the moment you thought that's got to be fake. Later on in conversation down the road, you might find yourself saying, wait, I thought that I saw something.
Hey, did you see that building blow up for the missile?
Yeah, but Jim, that's not real.
How do you know?
I don't know. How do we know?
How do we know?
So now we are not even having a real conversation because the reality of our topic has vanished.
And the questioning basic visuals, basic stories, basic everything, wondering in the back of my mind now, from every Canadian, no matter where you live and what your age group, you're like, is that real? And like that is scary. Entertainment, arts, business, war footage, news footage. It's hard to know what is real and what isn't.
So many posts that you see in comments are AI's wrecked the world, AI's ruined social media, AI, So I think that there is a backlash about to arrive in the world that says we want reality again. And as our producer Nick points out, some critical thinking is kind of overdue at this moment, I think, among humanity.
Well, and critical thinking is almost a lost art for a huge segment of the population.
Because we do this, and it's all we know often in being informed.
Like I'm guilty as anyone. I see my buddies, I'm playing hockey later today, and we see stupid hockey or golf videos, and we share them on Instagram. And some may be real and some may be fake, but it makes us laugh. I have a daughter who has a mini dachshund. We send AI dachshund videos where the dachshund is making dinner with the Gordon Ramsay, but it looks real.
I send, my phone allows me to take a photo and message it to somebody and doctor it up. My dog has been so many politicians from around the world sent to my family members. It's too easy when a guy 57 can do that.
Right. So, and Brian mentioned it. Some guy in his basement with just a laptop can create stuff that you can't even imagine with a little bit of effort.
Yeah.
It's not even being an expert, with just a little bit of effort and a laptop and Wi-Fi, and send it out there and see how the world spins.
You know what we'll do, Jim? Just to prove our point, I'm going to take a quick shot of you right now.
Okay. Hey,
and we'll add this to the end of the video, and you'll see the before and after.
Right.
Okay. And I think you'll be amazed with what you see.
And thank you, Brian. And try to keep it real out there because it's getting harder and harder.
Okay, let's have a look at what Jim before and after. See you next time.
See you.